Hey there! Today I'm going to show you one of my favorite Kegerator builds. It is a converted chest freezer. We've had this one in operation for about 8 to 10 years. If you want to take a look at its original inception, take a look at this old video for the off-grider. Well, these are the upgrades that I've made since we became A, less poor, and B, got electricity. If you want to follow along while you build your Kegerator, check the links in the description below. If you're looking for inspiration, I highly recommend going with a chest freezer. I feel like it's kind of the center of the homebrewing degenerate Venn diagram, if you will. They're cheap, they're easy to find, they're offered in multiple sizes, and they're very forgiving as far as being your first build. In addition, as your needs evolve and change, it can grow with you. Whichever direction you go, if you haven't bought a fridge for your Kegerator yet, bring the amount of kegs that you want to size it out, because there's a big difference between it should fit and it will fit. If you go the chest freezer route, be aware that you will have to add a thermostat or manipulate the temperature in some capacity to serve at a beer temperature instead of freezing. The first thermostat I used was an analog thermostat, and we did that because we were off-grid and we couldn't afford the extra electricity. A couple things I didn't like about the analog thermostat is A, it makes for very crude adjustment, and B, because it doesn't have a temperature readout, I don't know what temperature it is. Since we got electricity about 5 years ago, I've since upgraded to the Inkbird, which has a digital readout, which allows me to dial it in exactly where I want it. The off-grider of yesteryear featured these black picnic taps, or Cobra taps, which was fine and dandy for the time, but I've since upgraded to proper taps. Going through some milled lumber, couldn't afford the hardwood during the Rona years, so I used some softwood. In addition, this gives me more vertical space to have a countertop that lines up with the rest of my kitchen, in addition to allowing me to put these proper taps in without drilling through the sidewalls. Lastly, the keg collar gives me extra height for, you guessed it, more beer. 12 packs and 15 packs fit upright, no problem here. And even better, if I wanted to, over top of the compressor hump, I could fit a 2.5 gallon mini keg for a third keg. For what it's worth, I absolutely love these NukaTap D1581s with the self-closing faucet spring over the Perlix 630SS flow controls I had in another Kegerator build. This 6x10 inch drip tray adhered to the side of the fridge with 3M heavy-duty double-sided tape is situated 9 inches below the bottom of the taps. The 6x10 inch tray allows me to add a third tap if I want to. I wouldn't change anything about this configuration. So let's talk about CO2. Right now we're in the adjoining shop and we have the CO2 running back into the Kegerator. I've upgraded to 1/4 inch OD tubing, which I really like, and the old Kegerator used a paintball adapter, which is still very much working, but I've decided to upgrade to a bulk option. I still use this for setting lids and such, but the bulk option obviously is much cheaper. I went with a regular regulator, but I've given myself the flexibility. If I run out of CO2 here and I'm in a pinch, with the same tubing, I can disconnect and connect to get me through until I fill up that bulk CO2 source. Even better, if you don't want, say, a paintball regulator, you can get an adapter which connects to your existing regulator, your regular regulator, and will connect to a paintball source. So that kind of gives you some extra flexibility. My CO2 setup is very simple. For a more in-depth explanation, take a look at this video. But briefly, it's 25 psi here to set lids, to do carbonated water out here. I send in 25 pounds there for my carbonated water setup, as well as I step it down after a tea for beer. As mentioned before, I've got 25 pounds coming into here into a tea. One end I send directly to my carbonated water keg. The other one I send to an inline regulator, which drops it from 25 to 10 or 12 psi, whatever you need for your beer, into my beer keg. If you're choosing to spend money on your disconnects and which one you want to put the most money into, first choose the gas ones, because you want the higher quality one on the gas one, because gas leaks are much more difficult to diagnose than liquid side leaks. As per all my Kegerator builds, I'm using 3/16 ID ATP food grade beverage tubing. I prefer this PVC vinyl flex tubing for many reasons. First, it's cheap. Second, it's flavorless. Third, it's easy to work with, and its 5/16 OD makes it turn easily, as well as it doesn't add up in terms of bulk and mass in such a small space, as you can see. An important note is to keep your liquid lines off the fridge walls as they have a tendency to want to freeze up.